Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving deep into the really troubling allegations and aggressive legal maneuvers surrounding the MacDonald-Hudkins childcare empire. We're looking at a tangled web of corporate entities, massive missing state grants, and severe reports of silenced whistleblowers, people who were literally just trying to keep children safe. Let's get right into it.
We have to start with this incredibly chilling public review from a parent. It perfectly captures the terrifying reality hiding right behind the business's polished corporate facade. You know, when you drop your kid off at a learning center, you absolutely expect qualified professionals, right? Instead, parents and staff allege that untrained maintenance workers were thrown into caregiver roles. And on top of that, they point to serious health hazards like toxic mold found in the kitchen.
Which brings us to the core mystery we need to systematically unpack today. How exactly does a childcare operation facing such extreme scrutiny for child safety manage to get handed nearly $500,000 of taxpayer money? And maybe even more importantly, how did they allegedly use the local court system to actively suppress the very people trying to sound the alarm?
Section 1. Silence and retaliation.
Far from being a safe haven, state records and parent reports describe a facility plagued by horrific conditions. And we aren't just talking about a messy playroom here. Official reports indicate a malnourished infant was given only 2 bottles over an entire 8-hour day. Older children were reportedly going home with unexplained black eyes, bites, and deep scratches, with no incident reports ever being filed. It gets worse. Records note that developmentally inappropriate food, like peanut ice cream, was served to kids under 2, and dirty, mold-contaminated cabinets were stored right out in an open classroom.
So, what happened when people tried to speak up? Well, a predictable, systemic retaliation cycle kicked in to punish them. There's a clear pattern here. First, a severe incident occurs. For example, a staff member allegedly striking a child. Second, a brave employee attempts to report it. Third, the immediate response is workplace retaliation. The reporting employee is sent home on unpaid leave. And finally, step 4, to ensure total silence, a defamation lawsuit is slapped on the whistleblower.
Section 2. Weaponizing the courts.
Katie Hudkins initiated aggressive litigation in the Kitsap County Superior Court, specifically weaponizing defamation suits. The goal here was allegedly to bury factual reports of child abuse by framing them as malicious falsehoods. Individuals like Destiny Fedorenko-Howe and Lindsay Ferraro found themselves completely targeted by these lawsuits. But the really interesting part is what's happening right now with their lead legal counsel.
Section 3. The Legal Exodus. We are seeing a complete collapse of this intimidation strategy. Lead attorneys like Jeffrey Mentor-Eagleson and David P. Horton have formally withdrawn their representation across nearly all of these external defamation suits. Think about that for a second. In the legal world, when your entire legal team essentially jumps ship on your active cases, it is a glaring indicator of how fundamentally flawed the strategy truly was. It leaves Katie Hudkins professionally isolated, and her legal house of cards is completely crumbling. And the courts themselves are no longer tolerating these silencing tactics. In the Ferraro case, a judge just granted a special motion for expedited relief in favor of the defendant. It's a huge judicial rejection. The system is pushing back hard, showing that you can't just use a gavel to crush whistleblowers.
Section 4. A systemic collapse. But as we zoom out, we see the broader empire imploding too. For years, Katie Hudkins and Patrick MacDonald acted as a totally unified legal front. They were co-plaintiffs fighting battles together. But that facade has absolutely shattered. Today, they are bitter adversaries locked in a 2026 high-conflict divorce proceeding.
And frankly, their personal and financial history tells a long-term story of severe instability. Back in 2008, Katie Haglund, using her maiden name, was hit with a staggering $22 million foreclosure judgment. Then in 2017, there was a domestic violence finding against Patrick MacDonald. And now the final collapse in 2026. Amidst this high-conflict divorce, a January 29th finding of domestic violence against Patrick MacDonald required his second court-ordered surrender of firearms.
Section 5. Exposing the grant fraud.
Now, while local employees were being punished for reporting child endangerment, the owners were simultaneously securing massive amounts of taxpayer funds. We're talking about a staggering $450,000 state grant awarded in March 2024 to Treetop Village Kids, Inc. This money was meant to fund a massive 30,000 square foot childcare expansion in Port Orchard to help alleviate local childcare shortages.
But that facility never actually opened to the public.
The project literally collapsed before it even started because of severe structural issues, specifically heating units sinking right through the roof, making it totally unsafe for children. But rather than returning the state funds for the abandoned project, the owners reportedly just walked away with the grant money and then immediately turned around and sued their landlord.
So where did that money go? Investigators are now digging into whether those taxpayer funds were illegally diverted. Right as the Port Orchard project was abandoned, there was a sudden rapid flurry of new LLCs created in 2025. Following the suspected money trail, it looks like funds intended for childcare were diverted to capitalize new businesses like Compass Kids LLC, Rustica Grill, the Harbor Bar, and even used to purchase residential lots out in Ocean Shores. It raises a massive, glaring red flag. Was a grant meant for toddlers actually used to buy a bar and coastal real estate?
Section 6. The final catalyst.
Which brings us to the ultimate reckoning for this entire network. These 2026 high-conflict divorce proceedings require mandatory financial transparency. That effectively strips away the corporate veil that has shielded these private LLCs for so long. For years, they could hide behind a unified legal front, but family court demands open books, tax returns, and bank statements. The very legal system they allegedly tried to weaponize against their own employees is now the exact tool that will audit their entire empire.
So I want to leave you with this final thought. When bitter adversaries are forced to completely open their books, what will the 2026 divorce discovery process finally unearth about that missing $450,000 state grant? And how many more suppressed child safety reports from Treetop Village will finally come to light? When the house of cards falls, the truth is bound to surface. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and we will definitely keep following the paper trail.